What movie franchise should have stopped at 2? The Mummy. The first two focused on ancient Egyptian history and mythology. Number 3 suddenly takes place in Asia. Huh? You could tell they had to work too hard to make it work from how long it took to introduce us to the new setting. The cherry on top of that shit cake was the absence of one Rachel Weisz. Her absence was felt. Don't get me wrong. Brendan Fraser did great. I blame the writers/producers/director. I loved them in the first two. They were so good, spooky, and full of great classic action and comedy. My fav Brendan Fraser movies. I think Rachel had a scheduling conflict with another movie. Anyone who knows what happened there, let me know. I agree with you, but I think if they had taken their time after the acquisition of Lucasfilm and actually planned it out and signed a singular director to all 3 movies instead of slapping it together as fast as they could to capitalize on the hype, it could have been good. They showed with Mandalorian that they can make good Star Wars content with the right people behind it, but they just didn't take the right approach with the sequels at all. And ultimately the sad thing is they didn't really have to. They would have made money anyway just on it being Star Wars. Every single horror movie, I don't get it. You watch the first one, it's like, oh, that was enjoyable. I was on the edge of my seat. I got scared a bit, overall kind of fun. Then you watch the second, it's the same premises but the evil guy or spirit or whatever comes back somehow and it's alright. Not as good as the first, but alright. Then from there, it's just a copy and paste of the second or first movie. Like, why would I want to watch the same thing multiple times but with a couple of different people who stay on the screen for all of 10 minutes before getting killed off? Ghostbusters was a bit of a sliding decline. The first one was a classic, a masterpiece, and deserves the credit it gets. The second one was an entirely good movie, let down mostly by the fact it was following a movie that was so loved it could never quite live up to the hype. The third one was a bad decision. There were some good intentions, more women in leading roles, reviving a beloved franchise for a new generation, and stroking the nostalgia for those who remember it. It failed on all counts. The female leads felt far too forced, and awkwardly shoved into a position they were never meant to have. Those who remembered the originals were hurt by an okay but not great movie, with forced yet powerful females narrative and less attention being made to, actually produce a great movie. Those new to the franchise were also given a lesser experience as they saw the half-ass pitching of a classic, destroyed by a politically correct female trio now with fat sassy Pac hogging the limelight. I'm not against female leads, I'm against taking beloved films that had male leads, using a C-grade script from the storage room, and shoving female leads into it assuming the people who love the franchise will just accept a shittily written adaptation slapped onto a PC warriors. They need their own, well-written films, intended to be good films rather than a vehicle to say yay girl power. In so many ways I'm more of a PC warrior. I mean, not really, but I'm a woman. I'm a feminist. I love the idea of giving women more important roles, etc blah blah blah. That said, fuck that goddamn movie. I love Ghostbusters, and even the second because I was 4 when it came out so I grew up with it and don't get their hate. And that movie didn't honor the nostalgia or women. It's extra insulting because it seems like they only cast women so they can poorly remake the first movie and then pretend all valid criticism is from sexist trolls. Scream 2 was so fucking exciting. The opening scene alone was enough for me. They could have ended the movie there. It was already being produced when the first Scream was screening in cinemas, and the movie constantly jokes about the pitfalls of the pop culture sequel whilst simultaneously being one of the best and most self-aware sequels of all time. The music, the atmosphere, the returning cast, the movie within a movie, the twist at the end. It's up there with Aliens, 1986, and Shrek 2 as one of the most enjoyable sequels ever. Should have stopped there. Halloween. As I understand it, Halloween was always meant as an anthology series, with each film being separate from the others, only unified by the theme of Halloween. To their credit, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch is a good horror movie, but they shot themselves in the foot by making the first two a contiguous story. By the third installment, folks expected more Michael Myers, and when they rolled back their whole anthology idea to put the focus back on Myers, they just didn't have anything worth putting to screen. The final act that showcases the Black Pearl versus the Flying Dutchman ... is a masterpiece in storytelling via grand action set pieces. Not a single shot was wasted. Every line proved to push the story forward and deepen characterization. Also, two legendary shippings battling it out for survival around the whirlpool caused by the goddess of the sea, in a show about pirates, is the definition of epic. At World's End absolutely needed to happen, and it was a great way to end an amazing trilogy. I read things like this and I realize how different people's tastes run. I saw 1 and 2. 1 was a mildly entertaining brain-dead popcorn flick with barely passable acting and ridiculous dialogue. Its only saving grace was Depp's silly antics. Of 2, I have almost no memory of it all. It was so forgettable. I remember thinking, damn, this is bad, during an interminable action sequence where they were rolling on a mill wheel or something. Nowhere in any of these movies was there a character with more than painfully superficial motivations. They were popcorn flicks and cash grabs. Kung Fu Panda. Kung Fu Panda 3's story is a shit in my opinion. Why Tiger know the way to the secret panda village if she never been there? How the F everyone can use Kai when they only know that they're good at something? That's only two biggest question. The only thing that's good in that movie, like always, is Master Roagway, epic in life, epic in death. Except he believe in destiny a bit too much. The Ring. The first one was a good old classic horror mystery, and the second one was more of a thriller, answering many enough from the first movie for it to make sense, but also leaving enough questions open for you to be able to think about what could have happened before. The second movie ended in a way that there was no way there could ever come a movie in the franchise taking place after the events of it. Yet Rings came in 2017 and it made no sense whatsoever. Jaws 4 is a triumph of filmmaking. The idea of a shark seeking revenge and traveling from Massachusetts to the Bahamas in 3 days is Orson Welles-worthy storytelling. Those roars the shark screams during the finale send shivers down your spine and is only matched by the first sight of the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. Michael Caine was so committed to the role in the film that he couldn't even attend the Academy Awards to accept his award for Hannah and her sisters. He was afraid that if he left the shoot, he wouldn't have wanted to return. That's dedication, folks. Toy Story. I know this is gonna be unpopular, but there was really no need for Toy Story 3. Don't get me wrong, it was a good film, but I just feel like Disney, Pixar were running out of ideas and had to pull back an 11-year-old franchise back out of the ground. Don't believe me? The whole of the 2010s were basically just sequels for Pixar. Oh, and don't get me started on Toy Story 4. Now that was a shit film. Terminator. I only saw the first 2 Terminator movies recently. I had avoided it for so long because I'm not a big action movie fan and the storyline from the outside looked complicated, but Terminator 1 plus 2 didn't need any other sequels. The story was pretty wrapped up in 2 with some ambiguity. All characters got their arcs and it was just a nice sad ending. Every movie after Terminator 2 was needless and or a reboot of a story that was already told perfectly fine. They were blatant cash grabs, and it just depresses me every time I think about it that a pair of really good movies could be ruined for money. Fast and the Furious franchise. The first was pretty awesome, definitely one of a kind film at the time of its release, and the tuner import scene was pretty big. I was only in 9th grade at the time and couldn't drive, so it was pretty appealing to see a ton of cool cars and wild action scenes, the one-liners, the edgy acting, the early 2000s tech. What's not to love about the original? Cut to robbing a bank in Brazil, traversing the world's longest airport runway, and jumping cars between towers in the desert, and it's clearly jump onto the summer blockbuster train. Trash movie with a trash plot for the sake of trash, and yet I still watch them expecting to be entertained. Shame on me. The Fast and the Furious. I'm sorry, but they lost me after they put the Nissan engine in the Mustang in Tokyo Drift. I did watch 7 for the first time not too long ago just to see it. I was pretty disappointed in the all-out ridiculousness of the huge special effects and way over-the-top action scenes. It feels like they took a decent story and decent characters and just turned them all into cartoons. The Fast and the Furious. I'm sorry, but they lost me after they put the Nissan engine in the Mustang in Tokyo Drift. I did watch 7 for the first time not too long ago just to see it. I was pretty disappointed in the all-out ridiculousness of the huge special effects and way over-the-top action scenes. It feels like they took a decent story and decent characters and just turned them all into cartoons. Toy Story 2 had such an upbeat ending that acknowledged the fact Andy would grow up and eventually move on, but didn't beat us over the head with sadness and melancholy the way 3 and 4 do. Plus, the way Wheezy and Bo Peep are so casually brushed aside as the beginning of 3 really rubs me the wrong way. If you really need to round it out and make it a trilogy, watch the DTV Buzz Lightyear cartoon movie that has the toys watching it at the beginning. How in the fuck is Fast and Furious not the top answer? I scrolled for a really long time and didn't even see it mentioned. The first 2 were great, the third one was good but like a completely different movie. It could have just been called Tokyo Drift and had nothing to do with the rest, but after that they got so weird and awful. Just my opinion, but how in the hell did we go from street racing to all this other shit? Fast and the Furious. I believe if these movies stopped at 2 or 3 or maybe after Tokyo Drift, Paul Walker might still be alive today. Sharknado. It's like the first one was interesting, the second was like okay, and then it just went immediately down the shitter with the rest of them. Toy Story. And he didn't have to grow up. Why couldn't he just be a kid? I didn't want to see some purple teddy bear turn into a family-friendly version of Hitler. I'm sure this will get absolutely no pushback at all, but I have to go with Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. Would we have missed some great scenes and shows? Yes, but considering the majority of the movies are pretty bad, search your feelings, you know it to be true. Coupled with an extremely toxic fanbase, maybe it would have been better if we just the 2 is enough sometimes. My favorite part of that cover was the fact that incorporated the theme music from when he was escaping the dragon in the first movie into her version. That entire scene of him storming the castle was a literal masterpiece in my opinion. I've never seen a sequel pull off such a flawlessly perfect sequence before. Every action taken by every character is perfect. It not only works as just a funny but amazing action scene, but it fits every single character's personality and mindset flawlessly. Everything from Shrek's bravery to Donkey's huge horse jump over the guards to Puss in Boots pulling his cute eye move before taking on said guards. Even Princess Fiona using the flower to prevent Prince Charming from kissing her during the dance, knowing that something was just off about it all even if she wasn't sure what. Fuck, I love Shrek too. Yes, and number. Saw was an incredible horror movie, absolutely deserving of awards and notoriety. They should have stopped at 1, but the fact that they didn't has created something else entirely. I love the Saw universe. Jigsaw, John Kramer's character motivation becomes more and more nonsensical, and they always incorporate a completely impossible twist at the end which you never see coming because it would require mind-reading powers. I have seen every movie in the series, except Saw 3DQSU, and find the plot and motives so mind-boggling stupid that I will probably be a dedicated fan until the end. Saw 4, I think it's hard to keep them all straight, is essentially a critique of the American healthcare system. Jigsaw is just like you let people die because they can't afford insurance. Fuck you, even though you're just a desk worker for this company. The directors were basically forced into a contract where they are required to put out a movie every 2 years until the production company says they can stop. They hate the franchise. So yes, and number. Absolutely, the first F&F was just Point Break with the particulars shifted. FBI agent goes undercover in active subculture to catch sophisticated thieves who fit the profile. In the process he befriends some dudes, falls in love, and, discovers his new friends are also his quarry. Loyalties are tested, shit gets intense, but at the very end, FBI agent lets his new buddy run off. Granted with different implied results. You just swap surfing to street racing, and bank robbery to stealing electronics from moving trucks. Once the movies became big kid cartoons they found their own identity and I love it. Came looking specifically for Tremors' first movie, the perfect monster movie. Tremors 2, the perfect sequel. Even with all new people, it doesn't really on ignorance or anybody being an idiot. The monsters are known, the rules of dealing with them are known, the humans are easily kicking ass, until the monster changes, and the old rules are no good anymore. Tremors 3 tried to repeat what Tremors 2 did, but made the new monster form rather stupid. Also wasn't its own movie so much as a pilot for the Tremors TV show. Tremors TV show, okay I guess. Standard Monster of the Week, it really should have been called the Bert Gummer Show. The 1 or 2 episodes that didn't have Bert. Bert went into the city today, it's up to the rest of us. We're the dullest. Bonus though, several episodes feature Christopher Lloyd playing a character that's basically what if Doc Brown was a government mad scientist. Those were fun. Tremors 4 was actually a prequel, and a good watch, set in the Old West with the ancestors of the original characters during the town's boom mining times. Fun to watch Gross play a very different Gummer from Bert. The 3 they made after that were hot garbage. This doesn't exactly conform to the question, but I think that Disney never should have made the sequel trilogy to Star Wars. Return of the Jedi is the end of the Star Wars movies in my eyes. Edit. I must also mention that I love many parts of the prequels, Rots in particular, because, unlike the sequel trilogy, the Skywalker saga wasn't designed solely to make money. They were designed to tell a brilliant story, one that I love to no end. The sequels were a sad cash grab though. Every single decision was made with how can I get more tickets sold and how many things can I merchandise in mind. We started doing Star Wars movies as a Christmas tradition when the 7th came out. When Rogue One was in theaters I hadn't seen any trailers or spoilers or anything for it, so going in I had no idea what I was about to watch. Just expecting awesome Star Wars action, was really enjoying the movie, until it clicked that the rebels who stole the plans for the Death Star were never in the original trilogy, and then my heart just sank when I realized everyone was going to die. I was expecting cool space battles and Wookiees and robots and got a gritty war movie instead. I get what you mean, but just because you don't see the characters in other films doesn't mean they couldn't have been separated from the rebellion and unable to rejoin the rest, or maybe they simply weren't featured in the original trilogy as the most important thing they did was steal the plans and then they didn't figure prominently in later events. They might have been some of the people in the background of those briefings for all we knew. They clearly wanted to introduce fresh characters, so when I was watching it I never assumed everyone was going to die. Plus they weren't Bothans, so I figured they might make it smile. I was still surprised they had the guts to have the ending they did. I guess they figured that getting the plans out was enough of a positive that they could do it, but the fact the ending of the movie is so not your typical Hollywood super happy wrap-up was still refreshing to me. I think Rouge One was the best of any of the new movies. It actually had a direction, an overall mood, characters that actually developed little and nice sequence of adventure. It didn't feel rushed. Basically, even though Rouge One had a tortured development process, the end product felt like a cohesive movie that had a vision of what it was trying to be and what it wanted to say, which I felt the new trilogy and Solo lacked.